In 1991, a man left his home for what should have been a normal business trip. He told his family he'd be back in a few days. He packed lightly. He bought a train ticket. He said goodbye like he always did. And then he never returned. No phone calls, no letters, no sightings. Just gone. 30 years later, in 2021, a car slowly pulled up in front of the very same house. The door opened, and the same man stepped out. Older, but alive. He was wearing the same clothes. He had the same ID, and in his pocket, the same train ticket from 1991. When his family asked him where he had been all those years, he couldn't remember. Not a single thing. For 3 decades, he was gone. And then, he came back as if time had barely touched him. If you enjoy real-life mysteries that leave more questions than answers, make sure to subscribe now. These stories only get stranger from here. This wasn't hours. This wasn't days. This wasn't even years. This was 3 decades. 30 years with no records. No financial activity. No official documents. No confirmed sightings. A man erased from life itself, then suddenly returned. So the question becomes unavoidable. Where does someone go for 30 years? Before his disappearance, Vasil Gorgos lived a quiet life in rural Romania. He wasn't famous. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't involved in anything dangerous or unusual. He was a cattle seller, a simple profession that required him to travel from town to town, selling livestock at local markets. It was routine. He would leave home for a few days, sometimes a week at most, then return every single time. His family trusted the pattern. There was nothing suspicious about it. In fact, his final trip in 1991 seemed no different from all the others. He woke up early, bought his train ticket, told his wife and children he'd be back soon, and walked out the door. They had no idea. That was the last time they would see him for 30 years. If this story has you hooked already, leave a like. It helps these mysteries reach more people who love the unexplained. At first, the family wasn't too worried. A day passed, then 2, then a few more. Maybe business had taken longer than expected, but soon. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. And fears slowly replaced hope. The family reported his disappearance to the police. Searches were conducted. Questions were asked. But nothing turned up. No witnesses who remembered seeing him after that train ride. No records of him arriving anywhere. No trace of where he might have gone. It was as if he had vanished between the train station and the rest of the world. Years passed, still nothing. Eventually, the family was forced to accept what seemed inevitable. They held a memorial service, not because they had proof he was dead, but because, after so long with no answers, it was the only way to find closure, in every way that mattered. The family buried him, and then 30 years of silence followed. No bank accounts, no hospital records, no government documents, no social presence, nothing. A man who once existed simply didn't anymore. The world moved on. His children grew older. His wife aged. Life continued without him, and his story faded into memory. Until one quiet evening in August of 2021. It was just another peaceful night in the small Romanian village. Nothing unusual, no warning. Then suddenly, a car pulled up in front of the Gorgos family home. Neighbors watched. The car stopped. The door opened, and an elderly man stepped out. For a moment, no one recognized him. Then reality set in. It was Vasil now, in his 90s, alive, standing on his own 2 feet, clean, well-groomed, healthy, not weak, not sickly, not homeless, just there, The driver never got out of the car. No words were exchanged. The vehicle slowly drove away, and in the shock of the moment, no one thought to get the license plate. No one remembered what the driver looked like. All anyone could focus on was the man who had been gone for 30 years, standing right in front of them. As his family rushed to him in disbelief, they noticed something even stranger. He was wearing the same pants he had been wearing the day he disappeared. Inside his pockets, they found his ID card and the train ticket he had bought back in 1991, still there. After 3 decades, it was as if time had frozen around him, even more unsettling. He looked well taken care of. His clothes were clean. His body showed no signs of long-term homelessness, no signs of extreme hardship, no visible injuries, no malnutrition, nothing that suggested he had spent 30 years struggling to survive. It almost looked like someone had been looking after him all this time. If this mystery feels unreal, share it with someone who loves unexplained stories. You'll be surprised how many people have never heard of this case. When reporters and family members asked him the obvious question, "Where were you all these years?" his answer was simple: "I was home, home." But home had been without him for 30 years. He remembered some members of his family, depending on the report. But when it came to the missing decades, there was nothing, no memories, no locations, no explanation, just a blank space where 30 years should have been. And that's when the theories began. The first theory is the simplest, that Vossel didn't vanish into thin air at all, that after leaving home, he met someone, or a family, or a group of people, and was taken in. Perhaps he lived quietly in another part of the country, working odd jobs, helping on farms, being cared for in exchange for labor. In rural areas, especially decades ago, it wasn't uncommon for people to live informally without much documentation. Maybe he built a new life, one that simply never intersected with official records. Maybe he didn't want to return, or couldn't, until eventually, for some reason, he came back. But there's a major problem with this explanation. 30 years is a long time. Even the most hidden lives leave something behind. Medical visits, paperwork, witnesses, someone who remembers. Yet no one ever came forward. No employer, no caretaker, no neighbor, no trace of him anywhere. It's as if he existed nowhere at all. If you're enjoying the breakdown of these theories, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future mysteries like this one. The second theory focuses on his mind. Doctors and experts pointed out that certain neurological conditions can cause people to wander. Conditions like dementia, amnesia, or dissociative disorders. There are documented cases of people leaving home and traveling long distances, living in unfamiliar places, and having no memory of their past. Some have disappeared for months, some for years. They survive by working small jobs, being taken in by strangers, or simply drifting from place to place. When found, they often believe they were somewhere familiar the entire time, just like Vossel saying, "I was home." This explanation seems realistic. But again, there's a problem. Even people who wander usually leave traces. Shelter records, hospital visits, arrests, paper trails. Someone remembers seeing them. Yet, in Vossel's case, there was nothing, not for 30 years. And it still doesn't explain why he appeared clean, healthy, and well cared for. Then there's a darker theory. What if he was kept somewhere against his will? Some believe he may have been exploited, used for labor, kept in a controlled environment, hidden away from society. In some parts of the world, There have been horrifying cases of people being held for years and forced to work without pay. If that happened to Vossel, it could explain why there were no records, why no one saw him, why he appeared healthy but disconnected. But that raises an even bigger question. Why bring him back? After 30 years, why suddenly return him to his family? Why not keep him hidden forever? Why now? There's no clear motive and no evidence, just speculation. If this theory feels unsettling, that's because it is. But there's still nothing solid to support it. The fourth theory is the hardest to define. Some suggest that Vossel may have suffered a psychological break so severe that his perception of time was altered. That decades passed for everyone else, but not for him. That his mind erased years as if they never existed, not implying anything supernatural, just acknowledging how fragile human memory can be. The brain can block trauma, it can compress time, it can rewrite reality. But again, this explains memory loss, not physical disappearance, not the total lack of evidence. And that's where the contradictions pile up. No records, no witnesses, no explanation. He was too clean to have lived on the streets, too erased to have lived a normal life, and gone for far too long for coincidence. Every theory seems reasonable until you look closer, and then each one falls apart. If you've got a theory forming in your mind right now, drop it in the comments. I read them all, and some of the best ideas come from you. But there's one possibility that may be the most unsettling of all. What if Vossel wasn't in one place? What if he didn't live with one family? What if he didn't build a secret life? What if instead he drifted from town to town, from person to person, always temporary, always passing through, sometimes helped, sometimes forgotten? A man slowly slipping through society's cracks, not abducted, not hidden, just invisible. In rural areas especially, people can exist without much documentation. Small communities, cash, work, informal living. It's possible that Vossel spent decades moving quietly, never staying long enough to leave a trace, until eventually old age brought him back home. Not because he remembered everything, but because something inside him led him there. A familiar place, a safe place, the last place his mind recognized. And when he arrived, 30 years had passed. No one noticed while it was happening. No dramatic event, no single moment of tragedy, just a slow disappearance. One day at a time, modern doctors leaned toward neurological explanations. Locals were baffled. The media was divided between mystery and realism. But no final conclusion was ever reached. There was no investigation that solved it, no discovery that explained the missing decades. Just a man who vanished for 30 years and returned. If you enjoy mysteries that don't have neat endings, hit the like button. It lets me know to make more content like this. And that's what makes this case so haunting. Not that he disappeared. People vanish all the time. But that he came back. With no story, no answers, no explanation. A man erased from society, who somehow found his way home again. No one knows where he was. No one knows who cared for him. No one knows why he returned when he did. So now the questions belong to you. Did he live a hidden life somewhere in Romania? Did his mind erase decades of wandering? Was he protected or controlled? Or is this simply a reminder of how easily someone can disappear in the world, without anyone ever knowing where they went? If you enjoyed this mystery, subscribe for more real-life stories that challenge reality and logic. And let me know in the comments, what do you think happened to Vossel Gorgos?